Waking up at the hospital without knowing exactly what is wrong with him, our main character, Kusanagi, goes to the mirror to look at his face. As he is there, a nurse and the doctor arrive and they call out for him. He turns to look at them and he goes to bed so they can test him. Just as the doctor does his experiment, it's obvious that he is so shocked about what is happening with Kusanagi. The doctor looks at his result in awe, telling Kusanagi that he can't believe it. He tells him that he had lost consciousness and had gone into critical condition due to a traffic accident. But shockingly, Kusanagi is completely healed. The doctor comments that it is almost as if he was healed by holy magic. Well, it is not like Kusanagi is shocked at what had happened. He thinks about why he was magically healed, and he reveals that his body automatically heals him with holy magic. However, he is still bothered by the traffic accident. He looks at the doctor and asks him if his magic power was depleted as a result of the accident. The doctor doesn't understand what he is saying. He asks Kusanagi what he means by magic power. He tells the doctor that during the calamity before he was brought to the hospital, he was fighting monsters. At that point, the doctor knows that something is wrong. He looks at him and asks him if he could tell them his name and the current year they are in. Contrary to how the doctor has been calling him Kusanagi, he reveals that his name is Ikikami Minato and they should be in the year 1970. He doesn't get his name and the year correctly, so the doctor assumes that he may be affected by a sequela. A sequela is an aftermath of an injury which could have affected his brain. They also feel it could be a case of memory loss or impairment, so the doctor tells him that he is wrong and his name isn't Ikikami Minato. Instead, his name is Kusanagi Minato. Also, they are in the year 2022 and not 1970. It sounds like lies to his ears. Is his name really Kusanagi Minato? If yes, how did that happen to him? You can imagine the thoughts going through his mind, and his confusion is so obvious on his face. Also, he can't believe they are in 2020. That's more than 40 years from his last memory. However, looking at the environment he has found himself, it doesn't look like they are lying. The hospital has a bed, a shelf, and even a television which couldn't have been available in the 1970s, so he feels they aren't lying. He looks at the television, wondering if that's how it now looked. He watches the news airing on the television and comments that the television is so thin, and the image is really clean. He sees a calendar around him, and he looks at it. Indeed, they are in the year 2022. He looks at the nurse's hands and finds her reporting all the medical procedures on her tablet. He wonders what is the device in her hand because he has never seen it before. All the circumstances around him put together, it is obvious he is no longer in his timeline, and he wonders if he is really in the future. It turns out the doctor knows about the calamity he claims the world is suffering from. The doctor further enlightens him that the calamity he is talking about occurred about 50 years ago, and it hasn't happened again since that time. He is shocked. It really seems like the shock isn't the best way for him to express what he is feeling at that moment. He asks again to be sure he has heard what the doctor says and repeats that the calamity hasn't happened again since then. He asks the doctor what happened to the monsters that had attacked back then. The doctor tells him that although there are still monsters in their world, they aren't so many, so everywhere is really peaceful. That sounds like great news to Kusanagi. It really means that the world has eventually achieved peace. He is glad about it, and he comments, "Thank goodness." It is indeed happy news that the world has achieved peace, but the doctor tells him that news also means that the personality he calls himself, Ikikami Minato, died. During the Great Calamity about 50 years ago, Ikikami Minato sacrificed himself to save the world. The doctor tells him that there is no way he could be Ikikami Minato, and he is indeed not him. He realizes that the time he died during the battle, he really died, and he got reincarnated as Kusanagi Minato. That fact is clear to him, but he doesn't understand why he had to reincarnate or even how he reincarnated. Some weeks later, he is released from the hospital and he goes home. As he enters the house, he sees that he is in Kusanagi Minato's room, which is now his room. He reads through a book there, and he finds out that Kusanagi's parents passed away when he was a child, and he was kicked out by his foster parents and sent to attend a boarding school. And since then, he has been getting by with his parents' inheritance. He reads through, and he feels that during his days of magic, he has never heard anything like reincarnation magic, so there is no such thing as reincarnation magic. The only way he could have reincarnated was by the work of God or by chance. He sees Kusanagi's school's identity card, and he sees that the young boy attends Kamui Magic Academy. He doesn't know much about magic academies because, back in his days, there was no reason for magic academies to exist. But he seems to be interested in what magic academies mean and what they do. He sees something vibrating by his legs, and he wonders what it is. He finds a cell phone in the bag, and he picks it up. He sees that he has a call from someone whose number is saved with the name Tadano-kun. Looking at the name, he wonders who is the caller. He doesn't know what a cell phone is, and he even doesn't know how to use one. He thinks of what to do with the phone. He gets anxious and nervous as the phone rings in his hand, and he eventually decides that since he doesn't know who the caller is, or how to pick up the call, who cares about it, he throws the phone back on the bed. As the call ends, Tadano sends him a message telling him that he heard he has been discharged from the hospital already and Kusanagi should come to school already because he doesn't have enough money. Although Kusanagi doesn't even read the message, he also knows he is going to attend school because that's his new personality. He goes to the Magic Academy dressed in the uniform. As he arrives at the gate, he looks at the school's environment and he sees all the students playing and laughing around, and he thinks about the fact that he is going to school as an adult, and he says that the reality gets his heart pumping. He feels it is great and all, but he isn't used to that lifestyle. As he walks around, he sees some students practicing how to use magic. The student uses the fire magic on a figure and Kusanagi watches them. He wonders what the hell is that magic he is looking at. He keeps thinking about what that magic power is because he isn't familiar with it. The magic is so weak and it doesn't look like it has any power. He puts his hand on his head, screaming that is such a disappointing shit. The other students passing by him watch him weirdly as he reacts weirdly. He wonders if that's how the magic in that world is, and he can't imagine being that weak. He hopes his assumptions wouldn't be a reality. He says that compared to a newbie magician from his time, the magic power he has just seen is like a tenth of a newbie in his world. He keeps asking himself random questions like if the students' mages can actually succeed as a magician. He feels that for the magic to have declined this much, they are really drunk on peace, and they feel they won't have to go to war again. He eventually enters into Class 2A, which is Kusanaga's class. He enters the class and sits down. For one thing, he is excited about the class because he says it is like a blast from the past. He wonders if he actually has friends in that class. Then he suddenly receives a hit from the back that answers that question. It's not really like he has friends, but he can be sure that he has bullies. Tadano hits him. He calls him a fucker and asks if he has ignored his text. Tadano's friends remind him that he is just Kusanagi. He looks at them and asks them who they are. Tadano gets angry and kicks Kusanaga's table. He screams at how could Kusanagi forget him and that he is Tadano. Tadano calls Kusanagi a powerless piece of trash and also puts his finger in Kusanagi's eyes. Kusanagi remembers that he had indeed received a call from a Tadano. He assumes that Tadano is a friend of his and asks Tadano if they are friends. Tadano says he has indeed remembered who they are. He asks Kusanagi if he knows what being a friend means, and he raises his hand forward at Kusanagi, expecting that Kusanagi will give him money the same way the former Kusanagi has been paying his expenses. Little does he know that this version of Kusanagi isn't like the former. This Kusanagi is actually quite clueless about what he is saying. He holds his hand, laughing with Tadano that as friends, they should get along well, but Tadano drags his hand from Kusanagi, friendly gesture telling him that is not what he is expecting. He tells Kusanagi that he wants money and he should hand over some money to him. He goes nearer and drags Kusanaga's clothes. He tells him to hurry up and give him the money, and he tells him that he has plenty of money left from his parents' inheritance, so he should drop some of them. It's at this point that Kusanagi realizes the situation his former personality was in. The former Kusanagi doesn't have friends or parents, and he was being bullied at school. Tadano feels Kusanagi is pretending to be ignorant. He tells Kusanagi not to get full of himself, and he attempts to hit him. However, before the hit gets to Kusanaga's body, a very pretty young girl who is radiantly beautiful enters the class and greets everyone. Tadano looks at her and decides to leave Kusanagi. He, however, warns Kusanagi that he shouldn't forget the money. Kusanagi rearranges his clothes, and he returns to his seat. The class starts that day, and the teacher is teaching them about the Great Calamity. The teacher narrates that the Great Calamity started in 1979, and the great sage Ikekami Minato sacrificed himself to end the calamity. It was the final calamity, which is also known as the Great Calamity, and during this period, monsters appeared all over the world, and humanity despaired, but the pioneer of magic called the Great Sage, Ikekami Minato, thought differently. He didn't give in to the monsters at all, and he defeated all the monsters by himself. At last, Ikekami confronted the calamity's boss, who is the demon god. Ikekami crushed the demon god even at the risk of his own life, and since then, the calamity didn't return. The next step of the class is the question of who is Ikekami Minato. The beautiful young girl, Mizuha, happily raises up her hands to answer the question, and the teacher gives her permission. She says that Ikekami is the only survivor of the first calamity, and he is also the first magician and the reason the Kamui Magic Academy was built in the first place. She explains that he is the hero of the world and the idol of every magician. The teacher commends Mizuha that she is correct. Indeed, Ikekami was the only survivor of the first calamity, and the first human to use magic, and their magic academy was created to turn out many more magicians like Ikekami Minato. He is also the greatest human in history. The teacher tells them that the topic will come out in their test. However, Kusanagi is uncomfortable with that discussion. He screams no in his mind, hoping that they will stop. Since he is the one they are talking about, it looks so embarrassing to him. He claims that he didn't expect to be tortured that way. The other students look at him, wondering what is wrong with him, and he regrets coming to that school in the first place. However, he admits that just as the doctor has told him earlier, they are in a world of peace, but he asks if that's the reason the magicians in that world have become so weak. The peace in that world gets him uncomfortable. The school bell rings, and the teacher announces that it will be the end of their class that day. He tells them that the following day, they will have their magic power assessment. Tadano goes to meet Kusanagi. He asks him if he heard what the teacher has said about magic power assessment. He reminds him that he is useless at magic, and he feels it will be fun for him to see how dogshit Kusanaga's magic is. Kusanagi is so uncomfortable with Tadano's unnecessary talks he wonders if Tadano should shut up for once. However, he feels there is no point for him to remain at the school, and he turns to leave. As he leaves, Tadano speaks behind him and asks him if his late parents have no magic powers, too. He calls Kusanagi an orphan bastard, saying he has forgotten if he had remembered. He wouldn't have asked about his parents. He and his friends laugh at Kusanagi, and Kusanagi turns and calls them fucktard. Tadano gets angry and screams at Kusanagi. He tells him to get off his high horse and tries to injure him with magic. The magic power seems so huge, and the students know what could result if such power lands on Kusanagi. They scream at Tadano, asking him if he is really going to use magic in the classroom. He throws the magic at Kusanagi, asking him to die. And instead of dodging the attack, Kusanagi remains there. Mizuha jumps in. She tells Kusanagi that it would be dangerous for him to let that magic hit him, but Kusanagi doesn't leave, and he watches as the magic comes nearer to him. Mizuha screams at Tadano, warning him that he can't use magic over a mere issue between himself and his colleague. She begs him that someone will get hurt if he does as he is threatening. He tells her that Kusanagi was the one who was trying to pick a fight with him, so it isn't his fault. The smoke of the magic covers the entire class. Everyone is anticipating that Kusanagi will be dead or terribly injured from the attack. They look toward the smoke, and they see it is reducing until Kusanagi comes out of the smoke, and he comes out of it without any injury, burns, or pain. He tells Tadano that he got him, and Tadano is shocked that he came out unscathed. He wonders how that is possible after Kusanagi has taken his magic head on. The other students are terrified, and they wonder what is happening in that class. Well, if it's level 1 magic, Kusanagi can defend it with his magical barrier, and he doesn't need to use magic actively before he can defend such weak magic. He says that he has tolerated Tadano's excesses because he is a child, but he still thinks Tadano should be punished for what he has done. His anger forms fury behind him, his strength is echoed in the class, and even Tadano gets terrified before Kusanagi does anything to him. The magic in the barrier is stronger than what any of the students have experienced before. He gums their bodies to the floor, and they all can't move from their initial position. They comment respectively that they can't move, and they ask each other what is happening to them. They have never seen that kind of magic before, and one of them asks if what they are experiencing is really magic. The magic also affects Mizuha, and she wonders what's happening too. Mind you, Kusanagi hasn't even used magic at them. He is just calmly walking to meet Tadano for his punishment. As he gets nearer to Tadano, he stretches out his hands at the stupid boy, and it's as though Tadano wants to pee on his body. He is terrified. Subconsciously, tears fill his face, and he looks in awe. That scene has to be one of the strongest that has ever happened in their school, and there is no way the authorities won't find out what is happening. One of the teachers enters their class. He asks them what is the sound he has heard from that class just now and asks if someone is using magic in the class. None of the students can't give a response to those two questions because, for a fact, they also don't know. The teacher asks again, but this time, he directs it to a student. He asks Kusanagi to tell him what is going on. At this point, Kusanagi has stopped his revenge. Kusanagi smiles at the teacher and tells him that nothing has happened in their classroom. He confuses the teacher further by saying probably someone used magic outside the class, but the teacher says there is no magic club activity happening on the school ground, but Kusanagi tells him it is possible that a student outside of the department is using magic as he wishes. He says magicians are keen on using magic, and a person may have been doing as he wishes. He says that magicians are always so keen on using their magic. However, the teacher notices the smoke in their class. He asks, and Kusanagi says that the smoke had come from outside the class. However, despite the inconsistency in his statement, the teacher still wishes to believe him. He says that since it's Kusanagi giving that report, then he is sure the report must be true. He threatens that if there is indeed a magician using magic unnecessarily outside the school, he is going to ensure he finds the culprit. He tells the rest of the students to return to their seats. Sending him out of the class, Kusanagi smiles at the teacher and apologizes for the trouble he has gone through by coming to their class. He, however, knows the teacher won't forget such an incident, so he feels he will have to create false evidence to close the case down completely. Mizuho wonders about the type of person he is. She looks at him with fear in her eyes. Tadano, on the other hand, is still hell-bent on punishing Kusanagi if only he knows he will be the one to be punished eventually. Kusanagi looks at the magic that Tadano has used on him. He thinks about the magic level of the students and says that even if they are just students, their magic level is actually quite low. He feels they can't ever in their life be able to take a monster down with that weak magic that they have. He feels that although there is no calamity around that will deserve these kids fighting, but at least they must be monsters around. Since the students are weak, he feels he needs to check out for the monsters around. Later that evening, he magically jumps to the Shibuya. At the old Shibuya, he looks around and he sees that it isn't the Shibuya he knew before. He jumps around the entire city trying to see if there are monsters around that he can sense. However, after doing that for a while, he doesn't sense any monster around. Although the entire place is in ruins, he can't find any monster, and he assumes that the police have taken all the monsters out. As he walks around, he eventually senses a faint sense of a monster. He could see the aura of the monster coming from far away. He tries to sense everything in his environment, and he senses that there is also a lone human in that place. He tries to follow the smell, and at the place the monster is attacking a young girl. The lady is terrified, and she falls down. She begs the monster to get away from him, and the monster threatens to kill her. Kusanagi jumps there and fights the monster, who roars and fights him back. He successfully defeats the monster, and he goes to meet the girl. He looks at her clothes and sees the police badge. He assumes that she is a police magician. He turns to leave her but warns her that she should be careful next time she is coming to that area. She appreciates him for saving her. However, after he leaves, she wonders who he is and how he has that much power. She comments that he looks like a great magician, and she also tries to remember how he had killed the monster, and she remembers that he didn't even chant at all before using magic. Kusanagi has known that if he meets anyone and they watch him fight, they may be interested in knowing more about him. That's the reason he had used a scarf to cover his face before he came to that ruin. Seeing how the lady is also interested in knowing who he is, he feels he is actually right to keep his face hidden. The reason behind this is because he has just reincarnated, and he doesn't want to stand out among the weak magicians in that city. Talking about weak mages, he wonders how weak the lady could be for her to have been in such danger with a monster that has just low-level powers. He comments that police magic levels in that city have also gone very low. Concluding from everything he has experienced in this world, and from the look of things, he doubts that there is anyone in that world at that period that can actually defeat a real monster. It's not just the students' mages that are weak, even the police as well. That seals all his assumptions about magicians in that timeline, and he says that they have certainly become very weak. He feels that due to their weak nature, they most likely need his power. Since he is already at the ruins, maybe he should actually kill the monsters surrounding the city first. Upon returning to school the next day, as the teacher has told them the day before, that day will be their magic power test. They get to school, and the teacher informs them they will be measuring their magic power. He shows them the crystal with a time signal on it. He advises them that they should make sure they get their amount and their attribute that day, telling them that a mage's magic amount and attribute are the most important values if they want to become professional magicians. On the other hand, Kusanagi looks at the device they have brought to their class. He wonders if he can't measure his power without using the device. He is ready to pardon the students for their vague magical knowledge, but he finds it ridiculous that even the teachers do not know some of the basic things in magic. He is worried and scared for that generation, and he sweats profusely, thinking in his mind that magic perception should be the foundation of magic. Mizuha speaks to him. She asks him if that time will be a good time for them to talk. All the students are shocked that Mizuha and Kusanagi are talking together. He immediately figures out what's going on while looking at the face of all the students. He realizes that this is the first time he is speaking with Mizuha. She introduces herself to him as the second daughter from the magic noble house of Mizuha, Mizuha Yuika. Well, that can be quite expected, considering the noble aura she alludes. However, Kusanagi doesn't even know what a magic noble is. He asks her what magic noble means, but she is shocked that he doesn't know. She gestures at him shockingly and asks if he really doesn't know what it means, so she explains who they are to him. She tells him that they are from the leading 4 noble houses, the head of magicians. That gets Kusanagi more surprised because in the world he had come from, nothing like noble houses existed, and even in his world, He has never heard of the house of Manhwa. She looks at him furiously and he gauges her magical power. After gauging it, he comments that her magic power isn't that great too. Considering that she is proud about her family being one of the noble magicians, he feels that for a family of prominent magicians, their power is sure low. The way he had behaved during her conversation with him makes her regret coming to have a conversation with him in the first place. She had assumed that he would jump at the offer of speaking with someone like her the same way every student does, but she is disappointed that he isn't impressed. She wonders what is wrong with him. In her mind, she says that after she had generously started a conversation with him, he is behaving quite nonchalant. She wishes that he will be grateful to her for speaking with him and she hopes he would honor her, but he doesn't give her any of that. Tadano, on the other hand, is angry to see a loser like Kusanagi having a conversation with Manhwa. He wonders why Manhwa has gone to have a conversation with someone like Kusanagi. After inhaling and understanding all the explanations Manhwa has given him about their family, Kusanagi asks her what business her family has with him and why she is talking with him. That makes Manhwa more angry. She feels that the more he talks to her, the more he pisses her off, but she really wishes to establish a conversation between them, so instead of getting angry immediately, she tries to take deep breaths and calm herself down. She reminds herself that she is a noble woman and she shouldn't get that angry at a commoner, so she should think of her dignity and calm down. Kusanagi really doesn't care about her. He wonders what is wrong with her and why she has come to speak with him. He isn't wrong, as there was indeed a reason why Manhwa have come to speak with him that day. She had been thinking about how he could get hit by magic and still come out unscathed, and she believes there had to be a reason behind that, and she has come to meet him so she could find out what the reason is. After thinking about what she has to say, she eventually speaks. She tells him she wants to speak about the day before. Before she speaks, the teacher returns to the class and calls the people chit-chatting in the class to get ready for their measurement. The idea of measuring magic really doesn't go well with Kusanagi, but it is a great opportunity to get away from the ridiculous conversation Manhwa wants to have with him, so he smiles happily to measure. She tries to call him back so he can answer her question, but he walks away, so she assumes that since he is going for measurement, she will see his true power after his assessment. It's Tadano's turn for his assessment. He is still full of pride about his ability. He goes there and does his measurement. His magic power is 1000 and his attribute is fire. He is glad that his magic power amount has increased from his last assessment. Looking at Tadano's amount in the scale, Kusanagi says that if that fire was 1000, then the measuring standards haven't changed for the past 50 years. At least, that's the only thing that hasn't changed. The next student to have her measurement is Manhwa. The teacher calls her and she goes for her measurement. After her measurement, her result comes out and her magic power amount is 2000 while her attribute is water. She looks like the strongest in their class and the students are amazed about her numbers and how strong she is. The teacher tells Manhwa and Tadano that their magic powers are at the top of that year's level and they will both make fantastic magicians. The students compliment Tadano that his great numbers are quite expected from him as the great Tadano of the fire magic prodigy. Kusanagi looks at the way everyone in the class is amazed because of just 1000 and 2000 levels of powers. He is irritated at the way they are behaving, and he says it has to be a joke as Manhwa is really at the top of the class with just 2000. In the world he knows of, her level of skill isn't much better than that of an amateur. Manhwa goes to meet him to know how he feels about her magic power amount and her strength. She brags to him that powers of that amount are the true power of the house of Manhwa. She sees that he isn't giving her the admiration eyes that all the other students are giving her. She wonders why he looks so proud and hopes that he wouldn't look at her with that kind of face. She looks forward to his response about her level of skills, but he doesn't have anything to tell her because her pride seems unbearable to him. The teacher eventually calls Kusanagi for his measurement. Just before he goes to measure, the students start gossiping about him, and they say that he was ranked at the bottom the year before. They comment that he is impressive at studying, but his talent in magic is absolutely nothing. Before he gets to the measuring crystal, Tadano mocks him. He tells him that he has no talent, and he calls him a retard. He tells him that he should embarrass himself in front of Manhwa. Manhwa is also anticipating the result of his measurement. She wonders how much magic he has for him to survive a magical attack. However, she still feels proud that no matter how great he is, he can't beat her with her number. He also doesn't know much about the measuring thing. He gets to the front of the device, and he wonders what he can do. He is considering that he doesn't want to garner attention to himself because he has just reincarnated. He feels that back in those days, he really stood out with his skills, and it was really much of a pain for him, so he wonders if he should hold back a bit of his power, but no, the students have mocked him so much, and he really should show them what he is really made of. He touches the crystal for his test, as he determines that he will give the test his all, and if that device and indeed measure the power of a great sage, then it should try it. What follows the experiment can't be quantified with words. Instead of the attribute to show just an attribute, multiple colors are showing forth, and the crystal can't quantify what is happening. The students watching don't understand what is happening, including Mizuha. She wonders what is really going on. The numbers on the result device keep changing. Fire shows, water shows, and even wind. The ray of the energy almost blindfolds the students' eyes so much that most of them have to cover their eyes with their hands. The ones who aren't covering their eyes look in awe. This is above what anyone has ever experienced, and even the device can't bear what it is facing. The device breaks. Looking at what is happening, Kusanagi feels the device broke after he got too serious with the test. He stands there, and he looks at the students, commenting that no one there could sense his magic power. They look so weak, and he wonders if they are really capable of becoming magicians. The energy is really high, and after it reduces a bit, the teacher asks the students if any of them are hurt. Although they are in pain and sitting on the floor, it is quite manageable, so they tell him that they are okay. The teacher asks Kusanagi if he is okay, too, and he says he is fine. The teacher, who doesn't know that it is Kusanagi's power which had caused the blast, tells him that he is really lucky and he was right in the middle of the explosion. He says that was the first time he had seen a measuring device gets destroyed, but he assumes it could have been a defective device. Irrespective of what could have been the reason, that isn't good, and now they won't know Kusanagi's magic power amount or even his attribute. Kusanagi asks him if it is really bad that they can't know his amount or attribute, and the teacher explains to him that they split students into groups for combat class, and they were going to decide on his group after seeing their results, and now that they can't see his result, he doesn't know what to do. He calls Tadano, and he asks him if he can take Kusanagi into his group. That seems like an opportunity for Tadano to show forth his power and skills and bully Kusanagi more, so he is excited at the opportunity. As you can assume, he tells the teacher that he will gladly take Kusanagi to his group. The teacher feels he can leave Kusanagi in Tadano's hands, and he even says that if Kusanagi is with Kusanagi, he can be rest assured that he is in good hands. Tadano gives Kusanagi an evil eye, telling him that he is looking forward to him being in their group. Their teacher takes them to Old Shibuya. When they arrive, he narrates that there were monsters that were still inhabiting places that were severely destroyed by the Great Calamity. Hence the Shibuya is abandoned. However, at intervals, magicians and police subjugate monsters there, and the academy students are required to help with the monster subjugation. He tells them that they don't have to be afraid and that more than half of the monsters have been taken out by the pro-magicians, so they wouldn't have to do too much. Kusanagi hadn't expected that they would be given practical classes, but he feels even students should at least be able to take out a few monsters. Since they will even work in groups to take out the monsters, he remembers that he had come to that same place the night before, but he feels there is something weird around. There, he is sure that he took out all the monsters he found at that place the night before, and yet he can still sense some monsters around. He also feels that there is no sign of disaster around, so he can't understand why there are monsters around and why monsters are showing up around there. The students are excited about competing in the project, and they all brag that they won't lose, seeing the way they have taken the entire idea of monster subjugation as a joke. He says that they are having a practical class, so he doesn't know why they are that carefree. As the class starts, Mizuha looks for him around the crowd as though she wants to gauge how good he will do that day. The teacher commands them that the practical class has started, and they should ensure they work in groups, so they will be safer. Tadano calls out for Kusanagi since he should be on their team, but Kusanagi doesn't answer him. Instead, he walks away and rests his back on a wall. Tadano tells him that he should remain in the safe zone so he won't get in their way when they are killing the monsters. Kusanagi looks at him, irritated. He says he is being kind to Tadano, and the young boy shouldn't get carried away by his kindness. He says that he isn't going to go easy on him at that time. He warns Tadano that he is also not interested in a friendship with him, and if Tadano knows that he doesn't like him, he should just leave him alone and ignore him. Tadano still feels he is stronger. He threatens to hit Kusanagi, but he can't do it. So Kusanagi asks him if it is the case that he likes Mizuha. Tadano gets furious, his face turns red, and he activates his fire magic. He calls Kusanagi a bastard and threatens that he will kill him this time around. Before he releases the spell at Kusanagi, he warns him that he shouldn't do it, but Tadano thinks Kusanagi is telling him not to do it because he wants to apologize to him. He tells Kusanagi that there is no point apologizing to him at that point, but Kusanagi tells him that he should look behind him. He feels that it's a trick from Kusanagi so he can get him distracted, and he says that he won't get fooled by such childish tricks by Kusanagi, and he will hit him. He eventually feels an evil aura behind him. By the time he will turn, there is a monster behind him. All the students are scared, including him. He screams, "No way," as his face shows signs of fear. He wonders what kind of monster it is, how it has gotten there to attack them, and even why it had come for them, especially because it is a demon soldier. He wonders what a demon soldier is doing around there. All his friends believe he is the strongest there. They hype him up that if it is him, he will surely win against the demon soldier, and they beg him to please fight the demon. He is obviously scared, but he doesn't want to embarrass himself in front of his friends who have believed he is so strong. He tells them that he will fight the monster and he will surely win because the monster is light work for him. He throws his fight at the monster, telling him to eat it, and as he had said, the monster swallows it. He had expected that the monster would have been dead with his weak energy. He tells his friends that he has finished the job, and they commend him that he is so good. Only for them to see the monster coming out of the fire smoke. Subconsciously, Tadano sweats. The monster has come out of his fire without any injury, not even a scratch. Looking at them from behind, Kusanagi knows that there is no way a demon soldier could be taken down with a level 1 fire magic like Tadano's own. The fact that he had attacked the monster gets him more angry. He walks toward the group of stupid boys angrily. They are terrified. Tadano has fallen on the floor, and he is waiting for his death. He is crying and throwing down spits from his mouth. He says he is going to die there. Immediately, the monster soldier sees Kusanagi behind them, and he turns back a little. Kusanagi walks towards the frightened boys. He tells them that, apparently, even the monster can tell who is stronger than them all. Kusanagi's aura changes to blue, and he walks towards the monster. The monster already feels his great magical power. He opens his magic portal without any chant, and he sends magic at the monster, which also hits him immediately. The students look at him. Tadano admits that there is no way that monster could have been defeated with a level 1 magic. The students feel that Kusanagi can't defeat the monster, too, and they say that they are going to die there. After hitting the monster for the first time, Kusanagi activates the level 2 magic rock break. He hits the monster with it and then activates his level 1 magic give arrow. The fire shines brightly, and the students standing behind him are affected. He comes out from the battlefield without any injury, and he walks toward them. Tadano can't believe his eyes. He wonders what the fuck had just happened and what he had seen. He wonders if Kusanagi had indeed killed a demon soldier on his own. He refuses to believe what he has witnessed with his own eyes, and he says it is impossible. He had thought Kusanagi is the weakest in their class, and he couldn't imagine that a person like Kusanagi could really defeat a demon soldier. Walking away and thinking of the entire scenario, Kusanagi says that even his level 1 magic can defeat a demon soldier. However, something is more shocking to him, which is the fact that a demon soldier is at Shibuya. He says it is very strange for a demon soldier to be at that place, and the fact that it appeared a day after he had come there physically to kill all the monsters makes it more weird. He is scared, and he considers what had happened as a bad omen before a disaster. He wonders if the situation they are in is actually more pressing than he is expecting. He remembers the former calamity, how people died on the street, how young kids are found in the fire crying with their teddy, how he had single-handed jumped to save a little girl. It's really a war he doesn't want to experience again. Regardless, he says that even if the calamity is to happen again, he will save everyone again. The boys are still behind him, wondering what is happening. They say to each other that he has defeated a demon soldier. Tadano doesn't know what to expect, and you must applaud him for being the first to suspect what no one has suspected. He asks himself if that is indeed the Kusanagi he knew before. He hits the wall in anger because he is angry he has been defeated by someone he had underestimated. Unknown to them all that, Mizuha is standing behind the wall. With her team, she confronts a monster and she uses level 1 magic, Aqua Saucer. Her party members are excited, and they say that is something they could have expected from a prodigy like her. However, she is so proud that she feels their compliments aren't deserved. She feels something as minute as that shouldn't surprise them that much, and she comments that ordinary people are such a drag. She hypes herself that the reason they are that way is because she is a genius, and they can't help it. If only she really knows who the genius in their class is. It's at that point that she had noticed Tadano and Kusanagi's group. She had watched the way they are talking to Kusanagi, and she tells her colleagues that she will leave them to continue the adventure. At the same time, she goes to spy on the other group. She walks nearer and she sees that he is being bullied again. The scene seems interesting and she doesn't want to miss it. She remains behind the wall and she sees when the demon soldier arrives. She quickly hides behind the wall, wondering if what she has seen is really a demon soldier. She watches as Tadano and the other boys have fallen to their legs and are terrified. She comments that what they have experienced isn't what they can take on. No matter how great they think they are, she feels she needs to help them defeat the monster, and she tries to join them because she feels she can at least do that as the member of the legendary Mizuha family. As she runs there to tell them to run, the ray of Kusanagi's attack blindfolds her too. She sees the rock and the fire which Kusanagi has used to defeat the demon, and she wonders what she is seeing. She asks herself if that is indeed Kusanagi's magic. She remembers the Kusanagi they once know in their class. She can recall that he used to be extremely timid and he has no aptitude for magic, so she wonders what could have changed, and she comments that it is as if he is a different person entirely now. Also, she recalls that when she saw him use those magic, she didn't hear any chanting at all, which means he used magic without chanting, and they all know that only great mages can use magic without changing. Also, she wonders how he could beat a demon soldier with just level 1 magic because she could see he used just level 1 magic. She knows that a demon's strength is determined by its number of crystals, and that is also the way ranking is established in the demon's world. A magical beast is of rank 6 and he has 1 crystal. A demon soldier is of rank 5 and he has 2 crystals. Next to them are the demon captains, who are of rank 4 and they have 3 crystals. The next is the demon general, they are ranked 3 and they have 4 crystals. In the second rank is the demon king. They are of rank 2 and they have 5 crystals. The greatest of them all is the demon god. She is in rank 1 and she has 6 crystals. The number of ranks which is effective for killing each demon is fixed, and all these are common sense for all modern magicians. She knows so well that they need at least level 3 magic to defeat a demon soldier, so she feels it is impossible for a level 1 mage to defeat the demon soldier. She sees him coming towards her and she hides again. It is at that point that she wonders why she is hiding. She turns and hides better when she sees him, and he comments that peeking around is actually a nice hobby to have. She asks him how he had known that there was someone peeking around, and he tells her that if she is a mage, he will be crazy not to know that she is around. She comes to meet him, wondering how he could sense her. He asks her if they can sense magic, too. He realizes that they really can't sense magic, and he walks away disappointed. She calls out for him and tells him to wait. She asks him what the hell he has just done and tells him to explain what has happened, but he doesn't answer her. He keeps walking and he gets to the top of the ruins. He looks at her from below him and comments, "Good grief." He decides that he needs to check around the ruins to be sure that there is nothing wrong. He checks and he sees some small demons. He is relieved that there are no demon soldiers left, but he can still have a quite number of magical beasts around. He thinks of what had happened earlier, considering that even Mizuha, who they have considered an excellent student, acted surprised because he defeated a demon soldier. Then the other students around will have a hard time against magic beasts, so to help the students, he decides that he should reduce the number of magic beasts around. He uses his range to search for their location, and his range only covers the area around Shibuya Station, standing right there and targeting all the magic beasts around his range. He uses a level 2 skill magic called the Magic Barret, and the magic flies around like a shooting star. The students see the shining star around them, and they wonder what it is. Some of them assume it is a shooting star. However, since Mizuha is smart, she feels it could be magic. She sees its magic with multiple magic abilities. The monsters are weakened by the quantity of the magic. It is too much, and they can't take it anymore. There are some monsters in front of some set of students, and the students are terrified. The magic hits the monster even before it can attack the girl. After the monster dies, her colleague comes to check up on her, asking if she is okay. Standing by the top of the ruins, Kusanagi feels excited to kill all the beasts in that ruin with just one magic step. He looks down, and he sees that all the monsters in the ruins have been scattered. He feels scared that he has overdone the magic again. He intended to kill just some of the monsters so the students could kill the rest, but he ended up killing most of the monsters. He regrets his action because the class won't be able to proceed in the practice now that most of the monsters are dead. He feels he really needs to hold himself back next time so he won't overdo things. He decides to leave that part of the ruins and go to a quiet place. He flies around and eventually finds a place. He stops there, and while looking around, he considers the steps he has been making since he had gotten to that world. He feels there is no reason for him to hide his power more than necessary, but due to his past experience, he knows that standing out is such a pain in the ass. The teacher arrives and looks at the amount of magic beasts that have been killed. He couldn't have expected that there would be such a large amount of magic beasts left. He asks how there could be that many beasts considering that most of the beasts should be hunted down by professional magicians. He thinks about the fact that most of the beasts were killed by just a single strike. He wonders who could have done that. He isn't even considering that it could have been any of his students, and he says that could only be done by a very skilled magician. He figures that the mage had used null attribute magic, and the ability to fire countless magic bullets is null attribute magic, and in all his life, he has never seen a thing like that before. However, he is thankful that someone had used that magic in the ruins because, without it, things would have been troublesome, as there is no way the students could have defeated the beasts on their own. He is still thinking about the multiple bullet magic. He knows that firing 2 of those bullets would have been no big deal, but when the number reaches 6 and above, it is probably not going to be any of his students' job. The students who have also assumed the practice was just a walk on the cake are surprised. They ask themselves why there are so many magical beasts around. They are thankful that they hadn't died because they know they all nearly died with those beasts. Their teacher feels he has risked their lives. He bows to them to apologize and tells them he was also informed that the police had cleared most of the beasts, which was why he had brought them. He says it is also his fault because he should have also confirmed from the school's side before coming there. He begs them again, telling them that he is truly sorry for putting them all in danger. However, the students don't understand how they are still alive. They ask him if someone has come to save them, but he tells them that he also doesn't know. The young girl tells him that she was asking for the person who had saved them because she wanted to thank him. She was also confronted by a beast, and if the beast hadn't died in her presence, she would have been dead. The teacher feels the person who had saved them was probably not a police or an official mage, so he assumes that the person could be an illegal magician. However, even if he is an illegal magician, he has indeed saved them all. They all appreciate him for saving them, and they scream a thank you to Mr. Stranger Magician just in case he can still hear them. Kusanagi hears them, and he smiles. The students walk back to their school, and on their way, the talk of the town was what had happened. They ask each other if they saw what had happened, and they say they wonder what it is. Kusanagi looks at them going, and he concludes that no one is injured and they are all fine. He is relieved about that because he doesn't want to lose anyone to beasts again. He sees Tadano and his squad, and although they are now looking at him with a more remorseful faces, he sees that they are also fine. Mizuha, on the other hand, doesn't know what to take on what has happened. She keeps thinking about the fact that he had defeated a demon soldier with level 1 magic, and she thinks about the infinite magic too. She wonders if he is the one who had also used the infinite magic, and if that is the case, then he has the fire attribute and also null attribute magic. She doesn't want to believe that is possible because she feels no student can use 2 magic attributes, so she is sure he also can't use it too. She concludes that she is probably overthinking what has happened, and there is no way Kusanagi can be all that she is thinking. She concludes that the person who had used the null attribute is definitely a different person, and it can't be Kusanagi, but what she knows for a fact is that he can beat a demon soldier. She wonders what kind of person he is and where he has gotten his powers from. The boys from Tadano's group also have the same feeling as Mizuha. They wonder if he is the one that had created the shooting stars. However, Tadano doesn't want to believe that. He says it isn't possible, but his colleagues remind him that Kusanagi indeed beat a demon soldier in their presence. Tadano can no longer bear their excess words. He screams at them and tells them to shut up, threatening that he will kill them if they keep disturbing him with mindless noises. His friends wonder what has gone wrong with him and why he is behaving that way. Tadano keeps thinking about Kusanagi. He says there is no way that small fry, which is what he thinks Kusanagi is, can be so strong. He feels there is something fishy going on. His friends also support what he has said. They claim that what they have witnessed is weird and there is something going on. They can all remember that Kusanagi was a coward some days ago. They wonder if he is cheating in some kind of way, and Tadano is angry that he made a fool out of him in front of his friends. He refuses to accept that kind of defeat, and if indeed Kusanagi is cheating the system, he threatens he will make Kusanagi reveal his true character. After school, Kusanagi walks home alone as he does. On his way, he sees the school boys led by Tadano waiting for him. They tell him that they are waiting for him. When he sees the awful look on Tadano, he tells them that they are so persistent. He advises that they can use the time they are using to bully students around to actually study magic, and that will be a better use of their time. Tadano screams at him. He still assumes that Kusanagi is cheating his way at school, so he calls him a cheat. Kusanagi, on the other hand, doesn't understand what Tadano means when he calls him a cheat, but Tadano asks him to stop playing dumb. He says that he knows there is no way Kusanagi could have used the type of magic he used at the ruins, so he is sure Kusanagi has employed some dirty tricks. Their level of reasoning seems low to Kusanagi. He can't imagine that there are people who are that dumb. He comments that they definitely can't be reasoned with. He tries to leave, but Tadano asks him to come with him, claiming that he will give him props for not running away. But Kusanagi tells him that there is no need for him to run away, and he doesn't intend to do so. Kusanagi's guts irritate Tadano. He yells at Kusanagi, asking him to stop spouting nonsense. He says that he knows Kusanagi can't use his magic there, and if he can, he should use it. Tadano goes nearer to him, and he hits him with his fist. His friends also join him, and they all hit Kusanagi. They ask Kusanagi what's happening with him and if he can't do anything without his magic. He threatens that he is so angry at Kusanagi, and even if Kusanagi begs him, he won't forgive him. He hits Kusanagi, asking him to die. From fist hitting to leg kicking, these bunch of bullies keep beating Kusanagi, hoping that they are hitting him. But in his mind, he knows that they should just forget about hurting him, because all that they are doing to him isn't even scratching him at all, and that's because his power automatically defends him against hits like that. So no matter how much they hit him, it won't even affect him, and he won't feel it. He is annoyed because the kids don't look like they will let him go if he isn't injured. He considers pretending to get hit, so he falls down so they may think they are doing something. They continue hitting him because they are enjoying it, and after a while, Mizuha appears. Immediately Tadano sees her, his countenance changes, and he calls her name. Even before Mizuha asks him what he is doing, he has started explaining himself. He tells her he isn't doing anything and they are just playing around. However, she has eyes, and she can see what they are doing. She responds to him that she knows that he is bullying Kusanagi again. She is angry at him because it doesn't sound well that the students of their magic academy are actually bullies. She asks him if he isn't ashamed of himself for doing such a thing. He feels humiliated, especially because it is in the presence of a lady he likes, but instead of him to accept fault for what he has done, he still passes the blames on Kusanagi, saying that the reason Mizuha is angry at him is because of Kusanagi. He feels the reason Mizuha is disgusted with him is because of Kusanagi. Mizuha goes nearer to Kusanagi and she drags him up. She tells him that they should get out of there together and they leave. Tadano sees Mizuha holding hands with Kusanagi and it seems as if his brain has disappeared. He gets extra angry at Kusanagi and if it's possible, he can really kill him. He really can't hold his anger, and since Mizuha is already angry at him, he decides just to do all he has to do. He screams that he will kill Kusanagi, and he activates his fire magic at them. Even before activating the magic, Kusanagi already feels what will happen. He screams, "Oh God," because he knows what Tadano wants to do. Mizuha also turns to her back, and she sees the magic aura. She calls Tadano, asking him what he is doing. Instead of stopping, Tadano and his stupid friends activate their magic together. Mizuha knows if that magic hits anyone, it could be really dangerous. She tries to protect Kusanagi from the effect of that magic, but if only she knows that he doesn't need her protection. After Tadano finishes with what he wants to do, he is really satisfied with himself. He says that he is sure that even cheating can't help Kusanagi against that much power. The other students who have joined Tadano in the evil act immediately start regretting their action. They look at the impact of the fire, and they see that it looks bad, and the probability that Kusanagi could survive that attack is low. They wonder if he has really died, as though that wasn't their intention in the first place. Tadano is really satisfied, his smiles are so radiant, and I really hope that smile will last long. He plans the excuse he will give the teachers at school when they ask them what has happened. He plans he will tell them that they had mistakenly used magic outside the school, and it got out of their control, and Kusanagi got in the middle of the magic fight, and since he is weak, he got injured or maybe dead. He tells his colleagues that will be their narration of what had happened there. He sees the impact of that attack, and he also admits that they may have gone far. The whole ground is split into two, and the impact is crazy, coming out of that attack unscathed. And without any injury, Kusanagi tells Tadano that he had tolerated him thinking he was just a brat but seeing how he behaved. That day, his stupidity can only be cured by death, so it is indeed time for him to discipline Tadano. It turns out he had dodged the attack so it wouldn't injure Mizuha, and he had also protected her so she is without injury too. They both come out together, and Tadano is shocked that Kusanagi is still alive. He asks Kusanagi how come he is still alive even though he got hit by that kind of magic. Kusanagi is more angry that Tadano not only attacked him but he also sent fire to Mizuha, who wasn't involved in the issue they had beforehand. He asks Tadano how rotten he is, but Tadano refuses to admit his fault again. He says that both Mizuha and Kusanagi were both at fault in that situation, and they had both made a fool out of him. He refuses to give up, and he activates his magic again. He claims that if Kusanagi refuses to die, he will keep attacking him till he dies. Kusanagi raises his little finger and he opens his magic circle. The circle is so small, and the boys laugh at him because of his weak circle. They ask him which kind of crappy magic circle he is opening. They activate their circle, too, and tell him that they will ensure he dies that time. Kusanagi is exhausted of their excesses. He commands magic drain and a yellow and green flower blooms from the small circle the boys have called crappy. The boys wonder what the hell the flower is, and they see it as it comes towards them and surrounds them. They struggle to break free from the grip of the flower, and they scream that it should get away from them. The flower magically drains all their energy until they have no strength left. They collapse on the floor and lay there. Kusanagi looks at them, irritated. He had only absorbed a little bit of magic from them, and they are all out. He hopes that what he has done to them will make them reflect a bit. Mizuha watches him as he does all that. She is also shocked because she doesn't know anything about the magic he has just used. She wonders what had happened and the reason Tadano and his gang are all unconscious. After dealing with the stupid boys, it's time to go home, so Kusanagi carries his bag and turns to leave, but Mizuha calls him back. She begs him to wait a minute. She asks him what was that magic he had used. She asks him what has happened and reminds him that he isn't supposed to be able to use magic properly. She feels he isn't the same Kusanagi they all know in their school, so she asks him who exactly he is. He realizes he has done too much, those questions aren't ones he has answers for, and he comments that everyone happening is so annoying. He He reminds her that he had just saved her from dying, and rather than asking him questions, she should be saying something else. She admits that she should be appreciating him for helping her and says she will give him her regards for helping her. She appreciates him and then returns to her questions. She begs him to answer her questions. However, she checks her front and she can't find him again. She wonders where he has gone within seconds and calls out for him in tears. Considering what had happened that day, at night, Kusanagi finds his way to old Shibuya again. He comes in saying that he had a bad feeling, so he had come to check it out. Just as he had assumed, he killed all the monsters in that same ruin in the afternoon, and the ruins are full of monsters again. He wonders if that is some kind of bad omen. He has to kill all the monsters, and he says that if the monsters are coming to just Shibuya, he is strong enough to handle them. However, he can also sense monsters in some other places. He assumes that the monsters are too much for the police, and the magicians are of no good either. Considering all that, there is no way he can kill all the monsters in the whole of Japan alone. He needs someone, or better still, a set of people who are as skilled as him or a little bit more skilled than the average people he has been meeting in that city to help him out. He wonders what he can do about the situation he is in. He really needs to come out with a plan. Before he does that, he feels the need to wipe out the monsters in that place first, and he has to do it in a careful manner so he wouldn't stand out again. He activates his magic ring, and he uses his null magic again. On the other hand, an older man is walking back home after drinking. He walks and sings about how drunk he is, and he doesn't notice that a monster is looking at him from behind a nearby fence. The monster opens his mouth to swallow the drunk man from behind. But before the monster can achieve his aim, the null magic which Kusanagi has activated hits him, and he falls. The man hears the noise of what has transpired behind him. He turns, but he can't find anything there. He concludes that what he had felt must have been his imagination. Little does he know that Kusanagi had jumped behind him to drag the monster behind the wall. As the man walks away, Kusanagi wonders if he has been caught but concludes he is still safe. Well, he is actually saved from the man because he didn't see him, but another young girl had seen him when he jumped to that place to save the man. The girl has taken a video of the incident. She watches it again, and she sees she really captured the complete video. She sees the video as a viral-worthy material, and she plans to spread it across the world. Upon returning to school the following day, the school authority has found out about what happened between the students. Their teacher tells the headmaster and some students, specifically Mizuha and Kusanagi, it has come to their notice that some of their students were seen using magic outside the school ground. He says that if what they have found out is true, then they have no choice but to expel the students found using magic outside the school. Tadano is also part of the students that the head teacher has called, so he tells them that he wants them to explain what had happened outside the school the day before. Tadano screams. He says that he wasn't the one who had used magic and it was Kusanagi. He points at Kusanagi, telling the teacher that Kusanagi came to them first, looking for a fight. Looking at how the lies are flowing from Tadano's mouth, Kusanagi says Tadano lies so casually. He feels impressed by Tadano's lying skills and wonders how a person can lie and it will immediately look like the truth. Seeing the way the situation is going, if he keeps his mouth shut, he will take the blame for the entire situation, so he decides that he has to talk too. Although he feels it is a drag, he really has Tai explain himself. So he steps out to tell the teacher that what Tadano had said was all lies. But before he speaks, Mizuha steps into the conversation and screams that everyone Tadano has said is all lies. She explains that Kusanagi was getting bullied by Tadano and his friends, and it was also Tadano and his friends that used magic first. The teacher asks her again if what she means by Tadano using magic first means Kusanagi also employed the use of magic. She admits that Kusanagi also used magic but tells the teacher that he only did it for self-defense and he didn't do anything bad. Kusanagi looks at her and expresses confusion and shock. He had avoided her the day before, and he didn't expect that she would be the one defending him that day. Again, instead of admitting defeat, Tadano tries to lie again. He says that they hadn't done anything bad, but before he finishes, Mizuha asks him to shut up his mouth. She turns to him, asking him what kind of person bullies another, and then blames the bullied person when it is time for the consequence. She asks him if he isn't ashamed of himself. Tadano keeps shifting blame. He says that it is Kusanagi that is a small fly that isn't worthy of their prestigious school, so he was just helping the school clean up their trash. That statement gets Mizuha more angry. She declares that if there is someone who isn't worthy of their school, then it is him. He claims that he is worthy of the school. He says he is at the top of the class and the only one who is worthy of standing beside her in the class and not that small Kusanagi. She doesn't understand what he is talking about, but he begs her to open her eyes. He tells her that she should cover up for Kusanagi and she should join him. He says she should look at him and become his woman. The idea irritates her. She immediately tells him that there is not one chance that she will accept to be with him. He gets more furious and he is pissed at her, but she keeps talking. She says she has rejected him because he is a bully, she has rejected him because he is violent, and she has also rejected him because the timing of his confession makes zero sense to her. Kusanagi pities Tadano. Although he knows the stupid boy deserves what has come for him, he still feels bad about how Mizuha has spoken to him and feels it is too brutal. The teacher sees the entire situation and the truth is glaring. He says it looks like it is Tadano and his friends that are at fault, and indeed Kusanagi only used his magic to defend himself. The headmaster announces his verdict. He says they don't need people who use magic for selfish desires in their school, so the people who are at fault are hereby expelled from school. They scream and beg the school. Tadano's friends regret what they have done, and they explain that they had only done what Tadano told them to do. The head teacher tells Kusanagi and Mizuha to return to their classes, so they leave the dean's office and go back to class. Mizuha is still furious about what Tadano has done. She tells herself that the boy is the worst that she has ever found. She says she has been this pissed off in a while, and Tadano sure broke a record. Kusanagi asks her what she thinks will happen to the boys now that they have been expelled, and she informs him that they won't be able to become mages anymore. She turns to Kusanagi and addresses him too. She tells him that he should also learn to defend himself and speak up for himself. In his mind, he reminds himself that he wanted to speak if she hadn't stood up rashly and spoken. He looks at her in a confused manner and she asks what is wrong. He remembers that she has come through to save him several times, and he thinks about the times he had been at her mercy. The first time was in the class when they got into a fight, and she jumped in to save him, and now at the dean's office, she had jumped into the conversation to save him. He laughs at her and tells her she is a crazy good girl. His compliments make her feel completely red. She blushes, and since she doesn't want him to see her in that condition, she covers her face and walks away, telling him she will go to the class first. He looks at her, and he suddenly gets realization. Indeed, Kusanagi Minato is dead, and he has just been reincarnated into his body. He wonders if it's possible that Kusanagi was bullied to death, if was his death a normal car accident, or if it was staged. He really doesn't know the answers to these questions. He only feels those guys were definitely guilty of doing something, and he hopes that all he is doing in that world at least pays off. At the dean's office, it turns out the person who had reported the incident wasn't an outsider but a student of higher levels in the school. The dean recounts all that has happened. He tells the students that it was indeed reported that some students were using magic outside the school, and a few students got caught in it. That is true, but no harm was done to the general public during the course of that fight. The dean asks them why he had called him into that situation when no harm was done to the public. The student explains that it was because the student who got caught was Mizuha. The dean appreciates the girl's efforts and for reporting the incident. He tells her to give his regards to her father, and she reminds him that her father is willing to invest in the school. She leaves the office with her male friend whom she had visited with. He tells her that if what had happened is really true, then it means that Kusanagi is absolutely strong because fighting multiple mages would be nearly impossible for a mage who isn't very strong because he wouldn't be able to win unless there is a huge power discrepancy. He asks her if she thinks Kusanagi is stronger than him, but she says no, she feels he can't be as strong as they are, but she is interested in him. Since they are both interested, he wonders what they are going to do, and she tells him they have to confirm his strength first, and also his competence as a mage, and then they will decide whether the school should expel Mizuha. She calls Mizuha her sister, and they also have quite a resemblance, especially their hair feature. She is Mizuha Ruka, a third-year S-class student of the school. The boy, Katsuragi Ryuji, who is also a third-year student and is in the same class as her, accepts her proposition. Kusanagi returns to the class. He lies on his table, and he is exhausted from the peace in the class. Normally, Tadano would have come to disturb him about twice. He says that now that everything is peaceful, he has lost his motivation to do anything. The video the strange girl has taken of him the night before goes viral. Some of his classmates watch the video, and they show each other. They talk about the black mage, and some say they know him. Thinking of what they are saying, he really doesn't know what a black mage is, and he wonders if it's the same as a noble mage. However, he doesn't try to know more about the issue because he feels it doesn't concern him. Suddenly, the teacher calls out for him. He says that the students who couldn't get measured the last time are going to get measured now. That gets Mizuha more excited. At least she will get another opportunity to find out what Kusanagi is really made up of. She then sees that some senior students are entering her class, and she sees her sister there. She calls out for her, asking what Ruka is doing in her class. Some other students have gone for their tests, and again, it is Kusanagi's turn for his measuring and test. The teacher asks him to start the magic power assessment. He thinks of what to do because he had destroyed one of those machines in his last assessment, so he plans to be careful this time around. He touches it, and as the machine starts reading, he suddenly feels weak. He removes his hand from the machine and rests on his leg. The teacher asks him if he is okay. He says he is fine. The teacher looks at the machine and sees that they have managed to get a result that time around. Mizuha is disappointed because Kusanaga's attribute is none, and his amount of energy is 100. Ruka and her friend also look at the result, which isn't what they were expecting to see, and they are also so disappointed. The other students also rumor around about him. They say that since his magic amount is 100, then it means he is the lowest in their class for the second time. They also consider if it's possible for a person not to have any attribute. They say that such is quite rare, and it also means that he is totally useless. Ryuji looks at the result. He tells Ruka that there is nothing they are there to see and there is no truth behind Kusanagi, so the talk of him defeating the delinquents all by himself is just a lie. Ruka can't hide her disappointment. She tells Ryuji that they should leave the class immediately as they are done with their business in that class. Kusanagi still pretends to be weak. He bends down to get back his energy, and his classmates laugh at him, asking if he is getting tired just from the reassessment. They say that there is no way he won't be that tired, and he has to end up that way since his magic power is really low. The teacher goes to meet Kusanagi so he can encourage him. He tells him that he doesn't have to think too much about what has happened. He says that the amount of a mage's magic power doesn't mean everything in life. While every one of them has decided that with the result Kusanagi has gotten, he is really weak, Mizuha can't accept that result. She has seen him in action twice, and believing that he has no magical power is trash, she insists that something is definitely wrong. She has seen him defeat the demon soldiers by himself, and definitely, he has the ability to use the dual attribute of fire and null. She considers if he has adjusted his amount of magic power, but she also can't believe that because she has never heard anything like adjusting your own amount of magical power before. So she wonders what he has done for him to get that weird result. Kusanagi keeps behaving weak, he sweats, and he rests. He thinks in his mind that he has gotten a perfect result that won't make anyone suspect him. He had to do some precise magic manipulation when he has taken the assessment, and that isn't the reason he is feeling that weak. He says that the magic manipulation is taking a toll on him, but luckily for him, he seems to have gotten a grip on it. After the assessment, he walks back to class with Mizuha. He doesn't know that she has also witnessed the assessment, so he asks her if she was also in the assessment room when he did his assessment. She tells him that she was there because she was curious about his magic power a little bit. As they keep walking, Ruka and Ryuji command them to stop. Kusanagi doesn't know who they are, and in all the issues he has been passing through, they have never appeared to him. He asks them what they are, and Ruka introduces herself as the eldest daughter of the Mizuha house, Mizuha Ruka, and she also tells him her colleague is Katsuragi Ryuji. She tells him they are both in their third year. Thinking of the name Mizuha, he looks at her and asks her if she needs something from him and why she had stopped him on the way, but she tells him that she no longer has business with him. She walks towards them and says that she has seen that he isn't win a match against the delinquents that people claimed he had defeated. She looks at her sister and says that she heard Mizuha was saved by a guy whose magic amount was barely 100. She looks at her disappointed and asks Mizuha if what she has heard is true. Mizuha feels uncomfortable answering that question. She tells her sister that it is true. Ruka infers that she is so weak, and for a guy that weak to be the one saving her, she should just quit the academy. Mizuha asks her why she wants her to make that kind of decision. But Ruka replies with another question asking Mizuha if she had ever won against her even once before, whether it was in academics or sports, or even in magic training. Mizuha had never been at her level. She had never failed to lose against him in everything. And judging from all that, Ruka thinks she isn't suited to be a mage, and Ruka feels she can be the only mage in their family, which is more than enough. Mizuha doesn't want to accept that harsh decision against her. She tries to talk back to her sister, but Ruka tells her that all she needs to do is listen to her and do what she says. She tells her again that she should quit the academy and enroll in a normal school. Ruka asks her if she has heard, and fearfully, Mizuha accepts what she has said and tells her yes. The entire situation irritates Kusanagi. He tells Ruka that she is being quite arrogant. It has to be disrespectful for someone like Kusanagi to speak with Ruka, especially with his low amount of magical energy, so Ruka turns at him and asks him what he has said to her. He doesn't keep quiet. He keeps talking and says Ruka keeps talking non-stop without bothering to listen to what her younger sister has to say. He says that the behavior Ruka has shown is arrogance, and if it is not arrogance, what else can it be called? Ruka tells him that the conversation she is having with her sister is between family members, and an outsider like him should stay out of it. However, he asks her if she thinks she is having a conversation, and he says to him, it doesn't seem like she is having a conversation with her sister. Instead, it sounds like she is ordering her sister around. Ruka gets angrier, she asks him what he has said, and she calls him a bastard. He keeps talking to her, telling her that it is bad for her to coerce someone out of their own way of living, and that is something even a family member shouldn't be allowed to do, and that's the same with forcing someone to give up on their dreams. Ruka doesn't want to admit that she is guilty. She insists that her younger sister doesn't have what it takes to be a mage, and she is sure of that because her younger sister hasn't won against her even once. Mizuha also admits that Ruka is correct and she really doesn't have the talent to be a mage. She says she has only been telling herself that she is a genius and she has the aptitude to be one when she has no one won a duel against Ruka. Contrary to how Mizuha has stopped believing in herself that she will win, Kusanagi believes in her. He tells Ruka that Mizuha can win against her when Mizuha doesn't believe what Kusanagi has said about her, and Ruka doesn't even feel threatened at all. She asks Kusanagi again if he really thinks Mizuha can win in a duel against her. Kusanagi admits that it may be impossible for Mizuha to win in that duel for now, and Ruka says that's true. She will give them time to train well, but in 2 weeks' time, he would like them to have a 2-on-2 magic duel. Kusanagi asks if she means what she has said. She says yes and asks him if he is planning to run away now after spouting all the nonsense he has spoken to her. He tells her he isn't running away from her, and he says she will participate in the duel. 2. He looks at Mizuha and asks her if she also wants to participate in the duel. She is terrified because she already believes she isn't a good fit to fight her sister. In fear, she decides to give her answer. Will she accept the duel? Will they win? And that's how the first part of this Manhwa ends. Well guys, if you like this video and you want a second part, comment below with the word part 2. Also subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell and like the video. But most important, leave a comment. Until the next video.